Brought to you by Xuno, a free original sci-fi. Sneak peek at the end.
There was a day when Star Wars was the biggest, most successful franchise of all time. And then this happened.
I am Iron Man.
Making $26 billion by June 22, setting the example every studio on Earth could only dream of, the MCU became the greatest juggernaut in movie history, by a long way. And then it all just stopped. Not entirely, but not a single MCU movie in 2022 broke $1 billion. Audience scores dropped, and there are increasing rumblings that the train's coming off the tracks, but why? Is it MCU fatigue? Are the stories, acting, production, CG all just getting worse? Well, like all things, it's complicated. Now here's 3 simple things and 1 big complication to consider, and don't forget to comment your thoughts on this lot below. Number 1. Context matters. Yes, there are real problems, but to see them in context, remember that during Phase 1 everything was new. No one even knew what a phase was. Kevin Feige had brought his tons of experience on superhero movies before that, and he brought us films that felt different, but they built this connected universe in the background without us even noticing at first. Today we're so used to it, we watch for the Easter eggs as much as for the story. Have we become jaded? Well, maybe a little. I mean, Multiverse of Madness was a lot more successful than the first Doctor Strange. Love and Thunder was the most successful Thor flick of all time, but you'd never know it from the reaction, and neither felt as special as the originals. Maybe because now we have expectations to disappoint. So let's look at the following problems with context in mind. 2. Characters. Is Shang-Chi a good character? Sure, he's likeable. If you replaced Spider-Man with him, well, he's not that good, is he? Are the Eternals good characters? Pass. Mom, can we have the Avengers? We have Avengers at home! In case you disagree, tell me that the new Iron Man is as good as the old Iron Man. Yep, that's who she's replacing. I got no problem with this being a character at all, but just no. And unfortunately, weaker players that fail basic character likability, as discussed in my last video, are now the trend in the MCU, and that really does point to poor writing. It's fair to say they just don't have the same quality of creators, and it really shows. Remember that Guardians of the Galaxy was a little known comic from the 70s with no fan following whatsoever. Put a guy like James Gunn in charge and boom! These days there's not a lot of boom, it seems. Number 3. Continuity matters. If a film had no plot, we wouldn't like it, but with the MCU we've been conditioned to expect a greater, wider story, and where is it? Phase 4 is over, featuring more movies and now shows than any other phase, and there's nothing at all to connect them. If this were any other franchise, fine, but this is the MCU, so the lack of a wider story feels like the whole thing has no real direction. That's why you feel this way. And the more content we're fed that fails to deliver on that grand direction, the more we have to rely increasingly on weak characters and second-rate writing. But in the end, that very continuity will be the franchise's undoing. Yes, you heard that right. The MCU's own continuity is killing it slowly. The integrated universe is self-defeating, and I'd love to explain why, and I will in my next video, because I'm trying to keep these short. It's a whole big fat subject of its own. So please join me next time for a prediction of how and why the MCU will ultimately implode under its own weight. And if you wouldn't mind spending half a second helping my channel grow, please consider a like and a subscribe, and of course give me your thoughts on the below. I hope to see you soon.
My name is Linnea Wilson, and in 12 days, like most of the human race, I'll be dead.